Since burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas.
Good morning. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was extremely agitated. And I didn't know why I was agitated. And I was trying to figure out like what exactly was on my mind. And I couldn't really, the mind was so muddled, I couldn't really see anything that was particularly on my mind. It's just the mind was agitated. And because it was agitated, I couldn't fall back asleep. So that was around um, 5 o'clock. So or maybe 4 o'clock. So I just said, well, it's the middle of the night. I just lay here. I'll fall back asleep at some point. But it didn't happen. 5 o'clock came. I was still like restless, wide awake, and couldn't exactly pinpoint the point of my agitation. It was just, the mind was just agitated. So then I started coming up with things, like, oh, well, it's probably this, it's probably that. And nothing settled as this or that. So I said, well, then maybe it's just one of these states, and it's wrong to try to figure out what it is. Just be here with it, Tried that. That didn't work either. So then 5 o'clock arrived. And so I said, okay, so then I should do what I've been dreading, which is get up, and meditate. You lay here long enough, you'll just drift back off. So I got up, and as soon as I sat up in my meditation posture, which I love doing it on the bed, it's soft on my ankles, it's soft on my knees. I can elevate my hips just right with the height of my 2 pillows so that my back is erect. All the things that allow the body to like dissolve and fall away. And I have one of those memory foam mattresses. I'm telling you, it's like sleeping on a cloud. You just don't feel anything. And I have a cheap bed, so the bed is not hard, and the cloud and the mattress is like so it's just like floating, and I just love it so much. The bed is not real stable, so if I lean, the bed kind of leans, and all of this is really good because I've always wanted a really hard, firm mattress, and now I just see my body doesn't want that anymore. So I really like it. It's like being on a boat. If I lean this way, the bed kind of goes, and it's really working for me. So as soon as I got into that posture, everything started settling down. I said, this is good. Maybe, okay, I guess I'll do the Savannah Vishkabim, my Yidam practice since this is feeling so good. So I have to do is reach like this because above my bed is my altar. And I just slide my patient out, and I open it and I get ready to do my Yidam practice. And it comes to me what was trying to come through. But no, Panyawadi preferred to sleep, And the answer for something, though, that I didn't know was trying to bubble up. And that's why we have to work at disciplining our bodies and our minds, disciplining our minds to respond immediately to the troubling. There was a story in the Bible about sick people at the pool of like some call it Bethsaida and others call it Bethesda. And they would bring all of their sick people and put it by the pool. And when there was a disturbance in the water, the first one who got in the pool got healed, And so they tell the story of Jesus coming by the pool one day, and this man asks him out of faith, he said, I heard the stories about you. They say that you can heal the sick, that the lame walk and the blind talk. And he said, and he asked him to heal him. And he said, well, you're right here at the pool. Now, this is something that you know for yourself right here. The pool, he says, but I have no one to put me into the water because he was bedridden, or he was on a, what do you call it? When you can't walk and they stretch it like thing. And so he asked, he said, okay, get up, take up your bed and walk. And he did. And he went far and wide and told her, there's a man, that's doing this. And that was it. So I was just thinking last night about that story and how and what it could signify. You could take it literally. Actually, I take it literally, but don't mind me, okay? But you could take it, allegorically, like that troubling in the water being the troubling of one's mind. And how when one's mind is troubled, if they are unskilled and untaught, they can't get themselves out of that. And you're saying to them, you need to get up and handle your business, but they don't have the capacity to do it because they're in that crippled, decrepit stage. They can't get up and take care of themselves. And so for one to come along and say, you got to do this or you need to do that, it's an impossibility. One is no help at all. And so it requires that we use our own skills, our own proved weapons, and rescue, release that one who is unable to help themselves. We like to say what's wrong with somebody, like, well, what they really need to do is this, but then we just leave them to do it. We're just coming along, giving the instructions, but leaving them to do it. And all of this started coming to me last night in the night. And I said, I really would like to help my granddaughter with her baby, but she'll be going home in a few days or in a week. And I don't want to see her go home in the same mind in which she came. Now, her mom, my daughter, already called to give me the 411, which is she doesn't say no to her baby. She doesn't say, so her baby doesn't know the word no or don't touch, or, she just gave me the whole list and said, if you say this, you're going to upset her. I said, if I don't say this, I'm going to upset me. So we will have those discussions. And I found I could have them with her. you know. And so we went through like a 2 hour hissy fit last night. And what I did was I wouldn't let her pick pick the baby up, even though it would have been better for me and Kay, you know. But I just and then I began to note the different, the different changes she went through, and I wrote them down too. So she'll ask for this and don't give her that. Then she'll start saying, mommy, 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 mommy. And you don't answer that. Then she said, milk, milk, now because she's breastfeeding. Now so she goes through a whole tick list of things that she'll know will agitate. If that doesn't work, then she'll start scratching. She'll scratch and then she'll look to see if she's watching. But in scratching, it triggers her eczema. So she really is hurting herself, by setting off the trigger. And I just watched about 10 things in a row. I wrote them all down. And then finally, after 2 hours of yelling and screaming, and she didn't get anything, she had just about worn herself out. And she was like falling asleep, standing up, because I wouldn't let her pick her up either. Falling asleep, standing up. And then she said, so you see, you can't yell at mommy, you can't make demands on me. She's 2 years old, she understands adult language. And so she said, okay, mom. So then, so now she's scared to pick her up because I done told her she can't pick her up, right? So now she's sitting here, but now 7 has become pliant. She's worn herself out. And I said, you can pick her up. She said, I should pick her up? She said, no. I said, well, don't let her fall asleep standing there leaning on your leg. I said, now you can pick her up because she's talking to you now. And so she picked her up and then she fell asleep and she slept. That was at 10 o'clock. She slept all night. And that's the first time since she was born, and she's 2. She slept all night long. And so this morning when she started the same thing, like that was an anomaly, we put her back in that same position. If you start that yelling and screaming, and falling out and all that, nothing's gonna happen. We're just gonna let you tire yourself out, thinking that's what you wanna do. And she cut it out in about 10 minutes this morning. And I said, you see, it doesn't take that long for you to develop a new habit. And I said, a child really needs the safety of knowing that she has limits, because she has no way to pull herself back. That's your job. And she saw it all. I said, does she have a playpen? You're not her play toy, you're her mother. She needs a playpen where she can learn to play with her things, her toys and all of that. Does she have a high chair? She needs a high chair so she can sit in her high chair at the table with you and eat her food. She doesn't have to sit on your lap. If she's eating food, she doesn't need to be breastfeeding at that time. I mean, it's just constant. And if you look at it, that's how we are as adults. We don't have to go into a really deep spiritual thing to see our immaturity and to see our outrageousness and to see how far off of the path of self-mastery we are. And it's simply a small matter to get on. We think it takes all of this to learn and to master, but it doesn't take all of it. It takes being willing to really see oneself, have the wisdom and the instruction of the masters, and just quickly get on the path or get back on the path. That's all it takes. But we go all around Robin Hood's barn and we do all of these things, but it doesn't take that. It takes hearing. And if we would just put it into practice, just comply. But in our focus on ourselves, we find it difficult to do. So the Buddha says that that's why we have the teachings. And that's why it is an oral tradition. Because the capacity to move out of a place comes through the vehicle of hearing. And when we hear something, if we can trust the source of it and just put it into practice, it's not asking for us really to like discuss what we think about it, or everybody like share your views, or like you can do that because there is the investigation of states, right? But the investigation of states doesn't come at the beginning. That's a later step. That's a later enlightenment factor. That's not the first enlightenment factor. The first one has to do with mindfulness, being mindful of what? And if we are not able to be mindful of the teachings of the masters, to mindfully ponder them and consider them, we can't get to investigation of states. When we start with investigating states and what we think about it, we've already decided that we know, and we can't go any further. And before we can even have the mindfulness as that first factor, it talks about having set aside grief and covetousness for the world. Setting aside grief and covetousness for the world. Now, setting it aside doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that we dumb ourselves down so that we are not aware of any grief or covetousness. It says that we are actually very much aware. And through conscious intent, we are setting that aside. You don't have to set aside something that's already left your radar, or that you don't even recognize, or that you don't accept as real. You don't have to set that aside. It's already a non-thing. But it's when something really is a thing, and you're with great intent willing to set that aside and to say, if this is present in my life, this view that's holding this kind of suffering, then I don't know. And in being willing to set it aside, you're opening yourself up to the wisdom of the master to see whether it's true or not. You don't have to believe it's true or not. You can see, and you can have the proofs. What are the proofs? The proofs are the marvelous states of existence that one experiences. That's why the Buddha would say, hey, Pasiko, you have to come see this for yourself. You have to experience it for yourself. We like just talking, but talk is talk. It's not the real thing. Talk is just talk. And I can tell you all kinds of marvelous things. But unless one experiences it directly, one has no way to know whether it's true or not true. And so they go on with their views about what they think. But if you were in deep darkness and somebody said, go that way, and you start going that way, and as you walk, the darkness starts to recede, then you might say, well, I once embraced this idea and I was surrounded in darkness, or I even had some light. But when I'm walking this way, I'm getting more and more light. I don't know where the light's coming from, but I do know that brightness is dawning. Contentment is manifest with things or without things. What I'm knowing is that I'm not dependent on external things in the world to give me happiness and contentment. What I'm knowing is that I can find it as easy to be concerned about another as it is to be concerned about myself. What I am knowing, and you can see a shift. And so you'll think, well, I'll just keep doing that. I don't have to have the whole A to Z. But what I know is that light is dawn. I'll keep walking this way. I can hold my reservations, not a problem. You know, I can even choose on that path. I mean, because it may be sidewalk, it may be a road, it may be dirt and gravel, all of it going that way. I can walk on the dirt and gravel, or I can walk on the road, or I can walk on the sidewalk, but they're all going in that direction. So we're not like, don't have to be lined up behind one another. All of us are on the path is broad enough that I can, I can walk on the gravel, I can walk on the grass, I can walk in the street, I can walk on the sidewalk, but they're all going there. Because we're all individuals, right? So we can keep going that way. And that's how this path is. It's as simple as that. And you could say that someone walking on the grass versus someone walking on the sidewalk versus someone walking on a road versus someone in a wagon that's scooting along with one leg versus somebody on skates, really good versus someone on a bicycle versus someone in a vehicle, in a motorized car. And they'll move at different speeds, and have different levels of confidence based on how they are moving along that path. Some, want to get there in a hurry, and some are enjoying the stroll. Adina likes to walk all the time. She's always saying, I'm going to take a walk around the lake. Anjuwadi, you want to take a walk? I don't know why she asked me that. I've already said that one no goes for all time. I don't want to walk 2 miles or 1 mile, go even a half a mile. So that's me. I'll drive around it, but I don't want to walk. I don't really see that much to look at. But she sees all kinds of things. Sometimes she takes pictures and she sends the picture of something, and it's an extraordinary picture. I would have never seen it if I was walking though. I would not have seen it. And if she had tried to show it to me, I'd probably be agitated and irritated. So that's not the right thing for me. People have to find the right mode of transportation on that walk. And all of these are part of our path to awakening. And so it came to me to just do 2 things. And that is, when she gets back home, to make sure that she has a high chair to sit at the table and eat, and teach her how to sit in her place and eat her food, and you sit there and eat yours. And to have a playpen and try to get one. I'm going to get it to make sure it's one that they make them so soft and frou-frou now that she can't just climb right out of it at 2 years old. So she can learn how to play with herself and play with her things. And mommy doesn't become a play toy. and then she needs to have play dates. She's got friends with babies her age. They need to have a play date. She needs to be able to socialize with someone besides her mother. And when I explained it to her this morning, I'm like, I don't know how she's gonna take this because she believes that babies should free roam, you know. I said, but I'm gonna tell her these things. And when I told her, she actually started crying. She said, "Oh, Grandma, that sounds so good." Um, and I'm sure it's not something that her mother has said to her because she's my daughter, you know. But sometimes you can hear it from one when you can't hear it from another. Sometimes when you first heard it, it wasn't, you weren't able to accept or take it in. And then when you hear it again, you have the resistance because you already have your stance, you know. So sometimes you have to hear things more than once. And sometimes you have to go through more before you're ready to consider it. Sometimes you just have to humble yourself. So right now I'm going through a great time of humility as I'm studying the uh, uh, what is it? What's the first word? Imparting. When I'm studying imparting the absolute truth through the heart sutra. That one little paragraph, the heart sutra, we think that's this pithy saying and it's so great. When you start breaking it down, and here we have that one paragraph broken down into at least 500 pages. It leaves no stone unturned. So today I was thinking about harming living beings and a bodhisattva, what it takes to really be a bodhisattva. The bodhisattva can take any form. And you may see a person as a person, or a dog as a dog, even, or maybe even a baby as a baby. But I take 7 today to be my great bodhisattva because it was through observing her I am reminded of what it really takes to walk this path. Through my observing her, I have seen my selfish ways. Through observing her, I've seen how I have my hissy fits and how I block myself and keep myself from being able to, really reach my own goal. And if we can take these kinds of examples, and I'm saying I'm taking her as my bodhisattva, but in actuality, many times that person or that animal or whatever actually is a bodhisattva, coming in that form to deliver you. I was thinking about the raising consciousness. I was thinking about mantras and the purpose of mantras. And I had started to give a teaching on mantras. But as I went further, I had 3 different ones to go. And I was trying to see maybe there's a way that they all roll together, fall together. And what I did was I went and I looked through I have lots of mantras. I have more mantras than I can say in a day. I've got a lot because I wanted all of these. But then after you get them, you have to do them. And I'm like, I have too many. I have too many mantras to do, You have to learn the mantras. I don't have the mudras for all of them. Those were not transmitted to me. But I pulled them out at 5 this morning, and I began to look at the ones I had. And one was a mantra that one recites for liberating beings through the soles of your shoes. And that spoke about being reminded that every time you walk, that you're most likely killing some living beings. You're stepping on ants, you're doing this, doing that. So we're killing unintentionally, but they still die. We're still killing. I looked at the one on unknowingly taking life by touching with your body. Because every time your body comes in contact with anything, there are millions of living beings that are killed. I thought about like when you diet, or you're doing things to kill off the bad flora in your intestines or whatever, so that you can have optimal health. And to do it, you got to get rid of some things. So you're killing and you're choosing your life over theirs because you could say they're in my body. This is my body. But your body is comprised of billions of living beings. Is it really your body? And so I was thinking how I rarely think about these kinds of things. So my idea that I don't kill, I don't take life, it's not a real thing. That's maybe I didn't kill a human, you know. And so I was thinking I have a long way to go in really arousing compassion, even if I have to do that. Even if I had a tapeworm here, I would do whatever I needed to do, but not unconsciously, is what I'm saying. Because a bodhisattva has compassion for all sentient beings. We have a temple cat. And I don't have anything against the temple cat. If I had my brothers, I wouldn't have animals. I wouldn't have pets. We can't get along as human beings. Start close. Some use them so that they don't have to deal with human beings. It's them and their cats or whatever, you know. Some do it because they want a companion, but they just want a companion that's always agreeable. Then get a dog. Dogs like you regardless. And then you can spend all your time with your animal, so you don't have to make any corrections with yourself, with living beings. But reading these, the reasons why we do these particular mantras, because every time I walk, I'm probably stepping on some living being and killing them. Every time I touch something, I'm killing some maybe microscopic being, but still a being. And it gave me pause around who I think I am and the level of my compassion. Now they have some groups, I think it's the Jain Is it? Maybe that whenever they walk, they have a little broom and they're brushing before we step. Okay, so that's just not going to work, right? I mean, that's not going to be possible to eliminate all of your unintentional killing of beings. That goes with, that killing goes with being in samsara and being on this particular plane of existence or realm of existence. So can you see how difficult it is to leave this realm? To not constantly have cause and effect play out. How could you escape? How could you get away? You could do all the right things consciously and never make your way. And so there has to be a way out. And when one can clearly see how we are in a loop, then one starts to look for a way out. If one doesn't feel like that we're in a loop, we won't look for a way out. But when we see the loop, the endless loop, then we look for a law that supersedes the law of karma. There are laws that supersede the law of cause and effect. That's the abiding law of this particular universe. But there are laws that supersede that. So we have to find the methods and cultivate the understanding that allow us to activate a higher law. That's really what this is. It's activating a law that supersedes a law. So it's really scientific. Science hasn't caught up to it all, but it is. And we have to do the same way that scientists do with everything, you know? They come up with a hypothesis, then they go about investigating to see if that works. That doesn't work, they try something else. You know? They come up with a theory, and then they try to prove the theory. They're not trying to disprove the theory. When we hear something, we're trying to disprove it right off the bat. You know, our skepticism, whatever. I tell you, I love scientists. They're the most unskeptical people, although they're called skeptics. But they're always trying to bring to bear something marvelous, you know, into our awareness, to really prove that there is something better. Never satisfied with status quo. Willing to be wrong, you know, trying to truly get at the truth. Oh, we should be like that. It's not a personal indictment. It's really undergoing and putting one's all in that if we do this, what will happen? Well, we don't know. We just have to see. But the ones that we consider wise said, if you do this, this is what will happen. They said these things are possible. So who am I to say it's not possible? I can only say I'm not interested. And if you're not, fine. You know, I mean, really, it's fine. Because everything will have its time and its season. So just when I started with these, just talking on, oh brother, we're gonna go all the way back to stepping on an ant. We're gonna go all, uh, like the water and all the beings that are in the water. Well, I'll do that one because I'd like to the thoughts of you know killing off, raising the concept, however you get it out the water. I'm down for that. You know, I'm laughing, but I'm just saying. So whenever something happened out here that we would notice, I would get Busita because Busita really has. Well, you're not the only one now, but Busita really had a deep sense of compassion for bees. You know, if the cat goes out and gets a mouse or even a rat, he will bring it to Busita's room and let it loose. And Busita has to go around and catch it, and put it outside. I mean, and she or the rabbit or the groundhog, or he just brings all kinds of gifts, um, and it doesn't even scare her. But if a rat was in my room, I think you bought a rat once, didn't you? Yeah, I mean not a mouse, a rat. I mean a real rat. And somebody got a picture, and that thing looked like an armadillo. It was so big, But there she is, just trying to usher it out, you know. I'm wrong. What kind of person has that much compassion for a rat? Except for, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say except people who work with lab rats. Um, and I not only did I marvel though, I wish that I had that kind of compassion, that kind of sensitivity, because I don't have it. I want to save human beings. I want, domesticated animals to be saved by somebody, not me, but by somebody. And I want wild beasts to be left alone because we take half their land and make it an asphalt jungle. Then we go out and want to trek what little bit of land we left them with, and they have no place, to go. So we're like just taking over everything. And I'm thinking that's wrong. But if you want to have asphalt jungle, then leave the woods to the other critters that live in the woods. Don't go take that too. But you know how we are. We have dominion over everything, we think. I mean, just in these very gross ways I'm talking today. Not highfalutin, heavenly kind of spiritual ways, but just in ordinary ways, for us to not think more highly of ourselves than we ought to think. And so I started doing these mantras because for the first time, something leaped inside of me. That leap was like the heart fluttered and turned over. And when that happened, I caught an updraft. And then there were like the circles of lights you have, the circles of colors when one starts going into a particular state of ease, of peace, of calm. That uncommon sense of peace, because something finally penetrates in a certain way. and I'm forever changed. There was something broadened that I really wanted, but I was either too afraid, because I have a fear of animals. I know they bite, they give you rabies. I know that, if you're scared of me, I'm scared of you. That's how I feel about that. Having been attacked by a German Shepherd once who was going straight for my neck and got my arm there, I have a thing about dogs. If your dog's not on the leash, you need to be locked up. That's how I feel about it, because they are unpredictable. You say, oh, not my dog. So I have a mindset based on some experience that has left me in a permanent state of suffering and non-compassion around animals. I have a crazy cat at home. It's Kay's cat. I'm there with Kay, so, I mean, that cat attacks her, because he's crazy. I mean, he was traumatized. Took a traumatized cat, and that's what you get. So she's so compassionate. She'll be bleeding, and and she said, "Oh, he didn't mean any harm. He just got, he got upset. He was frantic." I'm like, yeah. But I couldn't understand why she could tolerate that. And she said, I just feel so much compassion for him. I said, well, then maybe you're the bruises, But I felt like, don't you have any power, Panwadi? Don't you have any personal power? What's blocking your compassion is your fear. Don't you even want to overcome your fear? Not really. I'm okay, until I realized how powerful would it be if I could walk in that room and had no fear? How powerful would it be if I could protect someone else who was being attacked? Because through my complete, absolute lack of fear and my complete, total love for that being, that I could soothe the savage mind. How powerful would that be? But to do that, to be able to be present for that possibility, I have to overcome my own fear. And you better know you really did overcome them too. And you better know that you really do have the cultivated power to soothe them too, or you might be in trouble. So I'm like, don't fake it till you make it. Just really have the capacity, is what I'm saying. Have the capacity, have the skills. I had a pastor once, and she was like that. Vicious dogs, anything. She could just go right up to them, and I didn't understand. She said, it's just that I have absolute love for you. And that's the power of love. I went, okay. I didn't want that. No. I just wanted her to be with me if I was anywhere near vicious dog. But that was her power. That wasn't mine. But I always wanted it. And so we look at what we want to gain from this. And we have to know that traumas that we've had early in our life. There could be traumas that we had in our previous life that are still very raw and present when we come into this world. And when we're doing things to try to protect and feed them, we don't get a chance for it to be uprooted. And so we have conditioning that we come into this world with. Because we were created from something, out of something. And not just something physical, because all things physical are made from the way the Bible says, the things that do not appear. It's the best you can do with language. But everything comes from something, even if it's some things in the invisible realm or the non-apparent realm to us that we can't trace. And even right here in this world, just because of our capacities, our normal wavelength abilities to see or experience temperature or to taste something, or we have a different range than other animals have. So my cat sees things that I don't see. My cat hears things that I don't hear. My cat knows somebody's approaching the door long before I become consciously aware of it. I mean, that's how I know somebody's coming, because the cat jumps up and runs off. Okay, somebody's coming. And it's coming up the walkway. I didn't hear it, or I didn't feel the vibration of it, or your energy didn't come into my field in an identifiable way. But it did for the cat. But by doing these practices, we're not just doing them for rest and relaxation and ease, but we're doing it to increase our capacity for self-mastery and to be a benefit to other beings. And in the process, we can get our happy on too, which feels pretty good. We can still ourselves and we can know what's troubling us, because we already have the capacity to know. There already exists the Dharmakaya, our essential nature that's so covered up from lifetimes and centuries. So this wisdom is not a wisdom that we are acquiring from the outside. It is the clear knowing that abides in the deepest part of us. And that's why we have to examine ourselves and really come to know ourselves and not be offended by what we see, but rather rejoice in what we see, because we haven't been able to see it to that depth, to that degree before. So being able to see it is already improvement. It's not like we're going in the other direction. It is that we're going in the right direction. We might be able to see it and not do anything about it, but to see it. When one has a deep longing to correct something, then you're providing the ingredients that's necessary to create change, to make a change, to drop off something, to take up something else, some other manner of being. And so we elevate from one classification of being to another. So I would say that we're in the causal stage, becoming bodhisattvas. Some may even be bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas can be human beings. They can be of the animal kingdom. They can be of the Deva or angelic kingdom. They can be of the God kingdom. They can be, so there's different classifications of beings. And one can become a bodhisattva in any one of these classifications. Or a bodhisattva can make an appearance because that's just one of the abilities that they have. Remember in the Holy Monk book, we were reading about a translator. And it said somebody was translating, so everybody heard the Dharma talk in their own language because a translator was translating. When they got out, they started talking about the translator. Some people said there was no translator here. And then this one was saying, yes, there was a translator because he was translating, French or whatever it was. No, he was translating, and so they said, okay, well, we're going to come to, and they started arguing over whether there was a translator in the room or not, and what the translator looked like. Some said it was tall, some said it was short, some said it was female. So they decided, okay, we're going to go and ask, we're going to go and ask the master whether there was a translator or not. But it was like late at night, and they were scared, but they were just so, arguing about this. So they start heading over to the room, gonna wake him up. He's standing outside the door waiting for him. And then he talks about these things in a very mysterious kind of way. And he tells each one of them, use your own experience. Then form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Until you're able to penetrate a view of both together, then you won't understand. So when we first start meditating, we're trying to get to a place that we can like drop off, because we read that statement that said, setting aside covetousness and grief for the world. But even before we get to that, we're sitting here just trying to calm our mind, bring our feelings down. We're just trying to get settled and still. And that's one part of it. So we work on ourselves. All of that up through setting aside covetousness and grief for the world. All of that's work we do on ourselves. Until we can get to a place like those things don't bother us. Those things even disappear, become non-existent. We lose all frame of reference for that, because we ourselves are dropping into a fading away. But that's just one half of the equation, because there is us and there are things. So when we can see in part our inherent emptiness, that's only half of the equation. We have to see the inherent emptiness in everything. And then those two create a whole. That's the only way that you can come to an understanding of form of emptiness and emptiness of form. You have to see the emptiness in form. And you have to see the fullness of things in emptiness. And that's the next step. Some of us have done really good with working with ourselves. But that's only half the equation. And now this is going to call for something else. And it means that you might have to drop off one way of looking at something that you've already penetrated and understood. Don't worry. You can add that back in later. It's like if you're making the cake mix and you're making the icing for the cake, you don't make them all in the same bowl. You make the cake mix in one bowl, the icing in another. You bake the cake, and then you put the icing on. But once you finish, you have the whole cake with the icing. Right? So sometimes learning is that same way. We learn this, and then we set that aside. Then we learn this, and then we put the two together, and it becomes greater than each individual part. None of this is woo-woo. It's actually the way we walk out things in the world. Yeah. So Sue has a very interesting talk for Thursday, a discussion for Thursday. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm also looking forward to who can accept it. And if you can, then fasten your seatbelt. You gotta do your work, your homework too. But the fact that you came up with that one says now's the time for it to be investigated. And I'm looking forward to that. Next week, I'm going to give people the mantra on raising the consciousness, because I think that it's time. And that's not these two, these are other ones, but that's one where you start to recognize what you actually possess. And that is a level of compassion that supports the same way that Sydney has to raise 7 and has to look out for 7 and show 7 the direction in which to go. We have a duty, those of us who are in the early bodhisattva stages, to go further, have to, upon even witnessing the death of a sentient being, begin to train ourselves in raising the consciousness of the dead. I remember I was there, and I'm through now. I was in a Dharma assembly with Buddha Master, and one of the gurus came to see him, and he asked him, was he successful at raising the consciousness of the dead? And he said, yes. He said, whose consciousness did you raise? And he mentioned somebody. He says, do you know for a fact that you did, or are you just saying you did the mantra? You know, he says, no, I know for a fact. He says, how do you know? He said, because then I ascended into that realm, and she was there. And the Buddha Master said, you did indeed. You know, and so from that point on, he was released. And I had thought about it ever since I was there. You know, I know the life of my family members. I don't know your family members' life, but I know mine. And some of them got some, tell you, rough. I don't even like to think about where they could possibly be based on their actions. What if I, as a bodhisattva, could rescue them? It's like reaching and helping someone up. What if I? That's the only reason I want it. Just like I rescue my cat every day. I feed her, watching over her. I can do that with this classification of PhD. But what if I had another class? If I entered into another class, another station, what could I do? And that's how we move. We have to first know that it's possible. And then we have to develop our vision, our skills, until we can actually do it the same way. I'm gonna tell you, this man right here is the greatest photographer that I've ever seen. Photography is not my thing. Pictures are pictures. But I saw some pictures he took that were, it's just, they were incredible. It was like not humanly possible to capture something like that. And the last person I expected to be able to would be him, because he's so straight, and like, how could you have even seen that to capture it? He took one of the Grand Canyon, and he took one of I don't know what it was, because it looked like a scene with a scene laid over top of it. It was that blue one that's about 4 pictures over. I could just see where it is on your wall, laid over top of it. And it just looked like a heavenly realm, wasn't it? It was like the most extraordinary thing I'd ever seen in my life. It took me somewhere. That's what I'm saying. To see it, I said, hey, that's truly a vision, not a vision. It is truly a vision. It's truly a vision, because it transported me somewhere. It wasn't just a good shot. A song is not just a good song because people's voices are good, but it's when it transports you to a higher state of being. That's what I'm saying. And those pictures did that. Those photographs did that. And so we need to go beyond the book thing. Doesn't mean we don't study, but it takes you to a state. So we're no longer going to be talking about all these states of compassion and this and that. It's to enter them. And when we enter them, we will become of benefit, great benefit.